Okay, let's get right into this. So basically, there's a lot of huge changes coming up with the Social Security Administration that we have to go into. And as you know, things get a little muddled normally with election season, but Martin O'Malley, the commissioner, is doing an amazing job. He is very hyperactive. He's doing all these incredible things that frankly needed to be fixed, and yet just people didn't do them. Prior commissioners didn't touch them, and he's getting them done. Let's get right into it. So this video is going to answer your August Social Security benefit news update. We're going to talk about what's going on with your benefits. We're going to talk about things changing inside the SSA. We're going to talk about how rules are going to be shaped going forward, and talk about how other agencies are interacting with the Social Security Administration right now. Now, this video will focus mostly on disability benefits because obviously I'm Attorney Walter Hnot, the most viewed and subscribed to disability attorney in America. With that said, let's get right to it. Now, the current COLA, the cost of living adjustment, how much your benefits will go up next year in January, is expected to be around somewhere around 2.62%, 2.63%, 2.64%. We are landing the plane on a more likely accurate number because we are coming to the end of the 3 months that are used to calculate the cost of living adjustment, so that basically in the not too distant future, we will have a specific and actual amount released from the SSA. Now, this is telling as we are in that final kind of month area of calculation coming up. So the bottom line is we're going to be getting closer and closer and closer to it. Now, we do have another video coming out that shows what the government does to decrease basically the cost of items that you would normally buy during this time, which then decreases the amount of actual cost of living adjustment increase that you get at the end of the day. So we're going to go through those items, and we're going to show you how the government does play a little bit of a manipulative game so that it doesn't have to do a massive increase in cost of living adjustment. Next thing, if you haven't been paid your SSI benefits this month, there may be a reason for that. Check out this emergency message on behalf of the SSA right here. Emergency message EM-24038. Again, EM-24038. Let's get right into it. On August 1st, 2024, so not too long ago, Conduit, the direct express processor for Comerica Bank, processed an erroneous RO3 repayment file. As a result, approximately 1,700 records were returned with the reason of no account unable to find. These payments will show up as a canceled option on August 2nd, 2024, and will come back to the SSA through the normal ACH process. Necessary action that they're going to take on this. The field offices and teleservice centers may experience an increase in inquiries related to payments scheduled for release on 8/2/2024. OFPO is currently working with the Department of the Treasury and Comerica Bank to remediate this situation, get people that are due their SSI benefits paid. If you receive a call or visit from a Direct Express cardholder alleging that they did not receive their 8/2/2024 payment, please direct them to contact Comerica by calling the number on the back of their card for additional assistance with this issue. So that's what the SSA is telling their employees to tell basically those SSI recipients who did not get a benefit at all. Direct all program-related and technical questions to your regional office, support staff using vHelp or Program Service Center PSC, Operation Analysis OA staff. Cool. Now, with that said, let's get on to the next thing. All right, there are 9 new compassionate allowance listings that have been added. Check out this POMS release. Let's go through it real quick. But first, please keep in mind, when it comes to compassionate allowance listings, most people do not fall within that principle, that property. I want to explain to you specifically how that works. A lot of people have mild impairments. Some people have moderate impairments. Some people have severe impairments, and some people have extreme impairments, right? Extreme is like bedbound. You've got a clock on your head as to when you're going to terminate, etc. People who are in the compassionate allowance listing category, they're likely to pass away. They're likely to, unfortunately, be terminal or bedbound, and these new 9 are where they're coming from with that. So essentially, if you have one of these, and you're seeking disability benefits, they will super expedite because you're very likely to be in a bedbound or terminal state. All right, let's go through this real quick. This is identification number DI23022TN73. Again, DI23022TN73 from a POMS recent change. Let's skip through all the fluff and get right to it. Some of these I'm not totally sure how to pronounce because I just don't deal with them that often. All right, summary of changes, add new cow conditions and update titles and location of current cows. Here we go. Adult heart transplant wait list, status levels 1 through 4. Brain bridge Roper syndrome. We got plasmablastic lymphoma. We got Costello syndrome, histiocytic malignancies. Not sure how to pronounce that one. Neonatal Marfan syndrome. Snergens, block Campu syndrome. I've never had that one. Child heart transplant waitlist, status level 1A, 1B. Histiocytosis syndromes, PACS1 syndrome, renal, medullary carcinoma. Okay, so let's see if there's any more. And then they just have the rest of the list of all the other ones right here. Okay, all right, perfect. So those are the new that they've added. But the obvious big thing is you're waiting for a heart transplant. They're gonna super expedite the claim. Okay. Next thing, Trump is promising the abolishment of the retirement 25K and 34K taxation. So basically, the elderly will not get hit as much with being taxed on benefits that have already been taxed. The way it works is simple. When you work throughout your life, 15%-ish of that will go in as FICA taxes, 12-ish for the regular retirement disability types of programs. You add Medicare on top, you get a little over 15%. Now that 15% gets put away into basically bank accounts and blah, blah, blah. Then down the line, when you go ahead and receive that money back as a retired person, if you are also working and earning over 25K, they can tax 50% of your retirement benefit or around there. It depends on filing status. Or if you earn over $34,000, they can tax up to 85% of your retirement benefits. Is this illegal and immoral? Probably, very likely. Trump is promising to get rid of it. He knows it'll get him senior and elderly votes. It's a smart move on his behalf because the largest group of Social Security beneficiaries that could potentially vote for him are the retired. Okay, next one. Vice President Harris, along with Biden, through a White House official, gave the following news recently. The president and vice president oppose any proposal to cut benefits and have put forward a plan in the president's budget to extend Social Security and Medicare solvency by asking the highest income Americans to pay their fair share, a White House official said. You guys know the plan. You've heard of it a million times. People up to 168K pay FICA taxes. People above that don't because they don't get any benefit from it. They don't get extra benefits. They want to get rid of that. They want people earning over $400,000 and up to pay FICA taxes. Are rich people going to allow this? No. Are rich people the people who pay for the politicians to have the ability to run to sit in the chair of power? Right? The political seat of power. Yeah, they're the ones who pay for that. They're never going to pay an extra 15% on their, earnings. It's just, it ain't going to happen. They've been promoting this for decades. It sounds good. The poor like to go with it because the poor think it makes sense to them. It's not going to touch them. The rich are taking too much as it is. They like the idea of punishing the rich. The Democrats know how to get the poor on board. Cool. But they've been doing this for decades. The same idea, the same premise. It ain't never going to go through. All right, next one. I'm noticing a cluster of emergency SSA releases on how rules related to immigrants receiving benefits will be applied and who will be eligible going forward. I printed out specifically over here the program policy instructions for emergency messages of the SSA website so that you guys can have a clear understanding as to what's going on with that. Just to give you an example, so the Direct Express one was EM24038. There's another one directly below that, EM23014 revised. That was released on 7/31/2024. What that one was for was enumeration, new parole processes for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, and Western Hemisphere parolees. Okay, so immigrants and how they can potentially receive Social Security benefits, usually in the form of supplemental security income. Then we go down a little bit more. Basically, we look at essentially right over here. Where is it? There was another one right here. Hold on. There's another one right over here. I have to find it again. 1 second. Okay. What the hell? I'm not seeing it now. It might be, maybe it was pulled. I don't know. That's interesting. That's very interesting. All right. There was another one, but bottom line is this. There's a couple of things here. I don't know. I'll have to look through it. I'll do a specific video on the immigrant changes for receipt and who's considered available for naturalization and then potentially can get SSI benefits as well. It's just interesting. I'm not seeing that one I was reading before. So, all right, let's keep rolling through this. Now, with that said, please be aware in the future when it comes to using social media platforms, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or X or any of those, that the algorithms will be drastically modified during the 2-month election season. So if you can't see my videos, that's because people can pay to boost, or put another way, have placement in your suggested videos. So you're going to see a lot of people spending a lot of big money, and you won't see a lot of the normal videos or people that you normally watch. And that's because they're just being placed in your suggested spot. So you can't actually see them unless you go to their channel. Now, also, I am considering doing a live session on Thursday night and maybe Monday night, and not doing it on Tuesday nights. And the reason is relatively simple. On Tuesday night, I then have to wake up super early in the morning and go to the Samaritan Resource Center to work with the homeless Wednesday morning. So I'm thinking about changing that basically to Monday. So if you see me doing it on Monday, that's the tester for that. Now, where do I see the Social Security Administration going? They just released information about how they're updating essentially the future of how appointed representatives can access more information related to your claims sooner, which is good. And the reason why is a lot of appointed representatives, the SSA is so low in the amount of employees they have. They're somewhere between 50 and 55,000 employees. They need 90. The point is, we would always have to call in and request status. Did they process the claim? What's going on with the initial filing? Have they done anything with it? Why isn't it going forward? Now they're able to go ahead and have that information directly input into the ERE and ARS, which is what we log into to see what's going on their side of the fence. So representatives will be able to do more, especially at the very beginning of the claim. Now, this is in contrast to where this whole thing is going, though, with attorneys doing this stuff. So what happened was, in the very beginning of Social Security disability representation for law firms, attorneys, etc., what would happen is the attorney would be brought on to represent somebody who would be going to a hearing. And that was it. They would get paid their fee, and that fee equaled their presence and preparation for the claim and getting you prepped for the hearing. Then places like, Binder and Binder came along, and they were like, hey, let us worry about the government, yada, yada. And they were like, one of the first, come, we'll file you, we'll get you submitted, we'll get you rolling, we'll handle everything. They, of course, basically joined up with a much larger financial entity. They spent too much on, online advertising, and then they got in trouble with this red dot thing that they were doing. And then basically, as a result of that, they kind of went into a financial spiral, a downward spiral, and it took them a while to recover from that. But the point with it is that then changed the style of how law firms represented people for their Social Security benefits, specifically as SSDI and SSI. As a result, I see the industry of attorneys moving now away from filing claimants and doing more of just hearing activity. And the reason why is the attorneys, what we get paid is so little. And even though they increased the amount, and it's going to go up again to $9,200 from $7,200, the problem is the dollar is devalued so much that we're already doing a lot of claims and we're just not making enough for all of the staff. So what I'm seeing is, I think the future of disability benefits will be less of attorneys, filing you and making sure everything's appealed, and they'll just be doing more and more of just the hearing stage. And you'll be having two options for a while, I think, in the future. You'll have mega big box firms that don't really do much, and they'll go ahead and just make sure the appeal is filed. And then basically you'll go ahead and get to the hearing, and then the attorney will magically pop up and you'll see them and be like, wow, you exist. And then you'll have your hearing. And then you'll have smaller firms that will likely only represent you at the hearing level. But here's the kicker. If you hire on one of those big box attorneys at the very beginning, they don't like to withdraw for rep and fees. They only like to withdraw for representation, but they like to keep their fee. So as a result of that, what happens is the smaller law firms that basically do the custom work and the briefs and the this and that, the problem is they don't want to take the claims when there's another attorney on it that's claiming a fee, because then they can't get paid enough to actually work the claim and win it, and have enough for the staff to go ahead and receive. So that, I think, is the future, the crux, if you will, of how this whole thing will have a problem as an industry going forward over the next 5 to 10 years. Now, with that said, I also believe that it is important that we talk about what is going on with these trust funds. Some people claim that they have been hearing for the past 40 years that the trust funds are going to run out in 10 years. That is inaccurate. That statement is 100%, unfortunately, it's a lie, but it's somebody who just doesn't know. It's somebody who's like, trying to like, rah, I'm scared. The reality with it is this. We knew in the 80s when everything was going to hell. And in 1983, on the doorstep of people not getting their full retirement check, they put all these changes through to help boost Social Security benefits, many of which were somewhat immoral in how they taxed people who are already taxed. Then we get to the now. And the now is they're saying 2035, we're going to face the same thing. But the kicker is all the little fixes have already been done. They were done in the 1983 changes. And now basically we're going to have to, look at how we're going to actually fund this thing. The problem is that 2035 is almost certainly not correct because of the actual birth rate when it comes to how many kids are people having at a young enough age. So when we look at essentially the Social Security system, the entire system is based off of human work product. And if we don't have enough new babies being born, and then at 18 going to work, and then paying in taxes, we have a collapse of the system. This is called the fertility rate problem. So what it means is that there's not enough people getting together and having kids. The other issue is that a lot of the kids that are being had by individuals who are not in traditional supportive relationships. So those kids don't always go to be as high achievers as they potentially could be with more supportive families. And I know people will argue, well, I know this one person who had nothing and now he's, basically inventing spacecrafts. Sure, absolutely. But in majority, the one problem is that when you have kids that have, a father that's not present and the mother has, a use and abuse problem, you end up with children who end up in the system and they don't achieve what their highest capacity level of achievement could be. And that's easy because if you compare that individual to two parents who are both working, sending the kid to some fancy private school, that kid's most likely going to achieve a much higher level of living because the education, the platform, the success, the being around others that make a lot of money, that all equates to a much higher likely achievement. With that said, we have not enough of those individuals, which means we're not making enough money, which means we're not taxing those individuals enough. As a result of that, we end up with basically too many low earning individuals and across the spectrum, not enough individuals in total. Now, the problem is this, the fertility rate math that they use for their calculation, right? We're in a dive right now. People aren't getting together. Men and women are having a crisis in their 40s and 30s and 20s when it comes to making relationships. So what we have now is unfortunately a fertility problem. And the SSA leaves their fertility calculations across the board, right? Across the board. By the way, if I paint or yellow foam on my hands, it's because I was working on house stuff. So what we have is they calculate that people are going to magically just start making babies and, doing that. But in reality, we have one of these. And every single year, multiple digits, it gets worse. So it is a problem. I have obviously no solution to it other than, people will argue, well, if people were Christians, they would go ahead and make more babies and be in more families and blah, blah, blah. You can make the same argument about, the Muslim religion. You can make the same argument about Judaism. You can make the same argument about all that stuff. But the reality is this. We as a country are not promoting people getting together, being in relationships and having kids. Like take religion, put it in a ball, throw it over there, let it sit there for a minute while we figure out the reality. The reality is people are not having kids and they're not getting together in relationships. And this happens when our academia system doesn't teach people the basics. And you might say the basics are like how to be nice to, the other partner, how to be helpful to the other partner, stuff like that. Yeah, it includes that. We need to do that. But it also is that our academia system doesn't teach the basics when it comes to home upkeep, how to do the laundry, how to do cooking, how to do basic preparation of documents such as tax documents, such as, basically things related to forming contracts with companies that can help complete things around the house, all that sorts of stuff. So the problem is we're teaching a lot of theoretical doctrinal theory. We're not actually giving them the basic fundamentals they need to form a good relationship. I have my theories on this. When you take the Constitution out of the classroom, you get some shitty times. But at the same time, the bottom line is this is the greatest problem that the Social Security Administration is facing, that the greatest problem that the retired, that the elderly are facing. The main issue that the elderly and retired don't understand is that all the money they put in was already spent on prior generations, and that the money that's being put in right now is not enough, and that the USA is in a problematic situation because they spent the money that the elderly already paid in by taking out special bonds against it, and they will have to print money to pay back that money and the interest due on those special bonds. So the problem that we run into, unfortunately, is that the elderly and retired don't realize how bad of a situation the Social Security Administration is in, and it's only going to get very bad very fast. And now I just want to give you a basic timeline understanding as to why. When you have two people, and let's say that they make it to, well, let's actually look at that. Let's see if they have some metrics on this. What age do most Americans have children? Okay, let's look at this real quick. So they would say median age of women giving birth in the United States in 2022 was 30. That was the highest average. Okay, so bottom line is, so let's say this. And remember, every time people start having kids farther down the line, the likelihood of their success in industry and jobs goes up. But the likelihood of success in the Social Security Administration being able to pay the retired and the disabled goes down. The retired and disabled want people to have a lot of kids quickly. We're talking, basically 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, that territory. If they're having kids and being in relationships even that young, that increases the mathematical principle, which of course it's completely immoral in America now, but that's how it used to work. That's how it was. But now what they want is as many kids as fast as possible that could be made as quickly as possible. And the reason for this is the more children that can be created, the more that will basically be able to start working, the more that will be able to start paying taxes, the more they will be able to start paying into these trust funds and these general funds of the Social Security Administration. However, when you stretch out that potential of having kids to a 30-year-old female with a 30-year-old male, you have a problem because they're not having as many kids. And the bottom line is that many of them aren't even having kids. This is a cultural issue of the United States, which is based off of what I like to consider a change in the necessities of the gender roles. Back in the day, men were very useful for certain things when it comes to farming. They would do certain things. Women would do certain things related to the house. They had their different functions. Then we evolved into the 1950s where the guy would go and work. She would be taking care of the house. Then we got into the 1980s where you had the McMansions and people trying to achieve that. And that was still when we were starting to send production and warehousing over to other countries. Then you get to the modern day. You have a man and a woman both working together. They don't really have enough funds to have the life that they want. And the bottom line is that, unfortunately, they feel pressured because they can't achieve the same levels of productivity and happiness and just owning stuff that their parents did. As a result of that, what you have is a depression/anxiety problem among most younger people. They're constantly working, they're not getting good sleep, and their student loans are out of control because they charge them 3 to 4 times as much for the same degree. And then, of course, remember, you have to have more degrees. You can't just have a college degree now in order to go into an industry and be competitive. You have to have a master's and a doctorate. How do I know? I'm the exact replica of that situation. I have a master's in business and a Juris Doctorate professional degree, which makes me the attorney. So the bottom line is that's the reality. You got to have more education, and the education costs 3 to 4 times as much as prior generations. And then, of course, you have mass manipulation on the Republican side, telling people that, they took out a loan, they got to pay the bill. If they would just peel the onion just one layer, and learn a little bit, they would realize that they're being manipulated and their brain is telling them to say some of the dumbest things they've ever said in their entire life. It's unfortunate. I don't have a solution for it. But again, the left, the right, they manipulate the shit out of the people that vote for them. Again, my belief. If CNN and Fox News told people to vote for a banana, they would vote for a banana. If they told them to vote for a pear, they would vote for a pear. So with that said, the biggest problem going forward is that we don't have enough kids being produced fast enough, and those kids are not achieving enough. All right. Why is this an issue? As you know, we are in a competitive space against other countries. Other countries produce individuals who can go ahead and basically, create new industries. Industries exist in tech, industry exists in raw materials, industries exist in medicine. But the deal is, if we don't have enough people being born that are getting high level educations, and then they're stuck for the rest of their life being a slave to those high level education loans, what we end up with is, unfortunately, a lot of young people being born that then can't achieve those higher levels of academia to take up those jobs that the corporations want them to do to make them more money. Now, are the corporations highly terrible when it comes to paying people they're actually worth? What the worth is? Yeah, absolutely. But you don't see the politicians reining them in. You don't see the politicians making sure that the people working these jobs are actually getting paid well. That is another political problem that I'm seeing left and right. All right. We've gone over quite a few things related to the future of the Social Security Administration. You will be seeing promises left and right from the Democrat side, from Harris, from the Republican side, from Trump, that they want to do for Social Security benefits. Cindy Palmatier, very, very, very cool. Thank you. Thank you for the $10 donation. That's the first super of the live stream, which is awesome. I super appreciate and love it with the little purple hair, happy face. That's awesome. So here's what I need you guys to know with this. These promises, people became very angry when Biden made the promise of the $200 extra per month. People became very angry that basically they didn't receive some sort of stimulus boost as a Social Security recipient. I want to remind you that as we go into the final months before the election, these political figures will make promises, but when it comes to actually passing them, actually getting them in a bill, getting them into committee, getting them through a couple of committees, getting them to the floor, and then getting the House and the Senate and the president to sign up on them is very, 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 very unlikely. So if you vote for a candidate, whoever you do, please remember that you like them not for the promises they're making as to Social Security benefits or student loans, but rather the promises that they make you about a better, higher standard of life, right? That's at the end of the deal. I know it sounds like, a you thing, you should only worry about a you thing. Please let me clarify. You should only worry about you stuff, because at the end of the day, the government always takes care of itself. It will funnel money out of you any way it can. You worry about you stuff. All right, I will catch you at the next video, which is basically where we're going to be going through essentially 5 tactics that disability judges use to throw you off. Please remember to like and subscribe if you can. And I know I ask this, and sometimes people get upset that I ask this. I was actually trained by the social media people to go ahead and do this. But the bottom line is, if you could go to disability resolution on Google, just go to Google and type in disability resolution Florida or disability resolution law firm, throw some stars up there. I always appreciate them. I love waking up to that. With that said, I go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm thinking about changing it to Mondays and Thursdays, where I answer questions for free. I may be doing a little bit of that today so that we can kind of get through the hottest day while I'm in the AC. Also, very important, if you want to hire me to fix something or review something where you've got about an hour of time where you want me to just figure out what's going on and tell you what you should be doing, that's fine. Mini contract is below to hire me for an hour for me to look through whatever the complex situation is that you have. Yes, a lot of the calls I get are to run hearing questions. Yes, a lot of the calls I get are from people who are being investigated with OIG. They send me the ROI report, all that stuff. Please, please, please remember, if it's a complex matter, call me if I don't call you ahead of time. I get to everybody, but if I don't, if something weird happens, like I was on vacation, I still got to everybody. But if I don't call you, call me, because we'll set a scheduled time, but I need to go through the questions ahead of time with you and tell you what documents to get so that I can figure out what your exact plan, your path, your brick road is going to look like. I'll catch you a little bit later. I will see you soon at the next video, and we'll be doing that in about 5 minutes. Thank you so much. I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.